Good morning, World Stuttering Network. We have a guest, Morris Wilburn, and I know that you recognize that name. Morris, thank you for taking time to be with us, impart your wisdom, and just talking about your insights, because I know that you are here to help people who stutter. So, thank you for being here, first of all.
I thank you.
So I think that we should start out by just listening to your story, to your fascinating story.
Well, I will start at the beginning. I have stuttered all of my life. I am now 72 years old. During my childhood, I, I was treated by two speech therapists that were associated with my public schools. Neither of those therapists had any effect on me in any area of my life. Later, when I got out of college, the college that I attended had a speech and hearing department, and it had a center on site at which students who stuttered could receive therapy. Um, those therapists did have some insight into stuttering, but I would say only 5% at the greatest of what they did need to know, and they had zero understanding of how to treat it. Okay, and so when I got out of school, I then went on to graduate school, and there my stuttering took a nosedive. And when I got out of a graduate school, it really got bad. Why was that? Well, the techniques that I had learned as a covert stutterer no longer worked. The reason is that I was in a totally different environment. From college, I went to Southeast Texas to Chicago. I did not know a soul there. That right there took me far out of my comfort zone, and I had zero support system. Okay, but things really got rough when I got out of graduate school because I did so in the summer of 1980, and that still ranks as one of the two most severe recessions in our country since World War II. And there I was, fresh out of school, competing for a job with 10 people with 5 years experience who had just gotten thrown out onto the street. Extremely difficult period in my life. I finally got out of a job. Again, I was in an entirely different environment, and again, the techniques I had learned as a covert stutterer no longer applied. Now, of course, at that time in my life, did not have any understanding of what was happening to me. All I knew it was almost like I was 12 years old again. It really was. Um, a few years passed. Stress, the emotional stress, and the physical tension were so great that I just could not take it anymore. So I can recall very clearly an afternoon that I decided that I had to take control of my life. I could not endure this anymore. And so at the age of 30, I became my own speech pathologist, psychologist, psychiatrist, and everything else. And I have remained so to this day. Okay, now that journey, I could talk for hours. Now, I will give you the short version, and even it is long, but I will try to make it as short as I can. Read as widely as I possibly could. I read in medical journals, psychiatry journals, highly specialized medical fields in the area of neurology. I also read popular stuff in psychology by, I believe, divine intervention. I stumbled across journal articles that in the early 1970s were reporting that physicians had found by accident that certain medications helped some adults who stuttered. I recognized a pattern. They fell into two categories, SSRI and anti-anxiety medications. Somehow I had enough insight to see was the course of action I could take. For years, I had intuitively known there was something seriously wrong with me, but I did not know what. Okay, my primary care physician at the time had compassion on me, and I took him the information on those medications and I asked him to prescribe them to me. And over a course of several years, we found that it was not one, but a combination of two that helped me enormously. It changed my life. At that point, I did not care why. It took me decades to understand why, but I did not care at the time.
So if I could
Um,
ask you, Morris, what two medications did you start to take that helped your stuttering?
well, I tried several, but the two that I started on that really helped me were an early form of Xanax called Transine. It is also sold under the name chloracipate. The other medication fell into the SSRI class, Prozac.
You
Uh,
still take those medications?
I still take Prozac. Now, over the years, as I read more and I gained more understanding, I did try other anti-anxiety medications. There is one that is not known very much in this country, but is in Germany and certain other countries in Europe named Buspar. I tried it. It really did not help me. I,
Buspar, Buspar.
yes,
Okay.
it is also known as Busperine.
Okay.
I doubt I have pronounced it correctly, but that is as
Sure.
close as I can get. I eventually settled on Paxil. instead of transing. Okay, now to go back to transing and Prozac, for the first time in my life, I had been able to think clearly enough about my problem and have enough self insight to directly address my stuttering. Uh, Only decades later that I understood what had happened to me is that I had acquired an anxiety disorder that today is called complex PTSD. The origin of it in my case was as a child, I endured horrific bullying at school. Now, to give you an idea, now this gets grim, but this is true. The time in the sixth grade, afternoon, for months and months, I've been dreading the coming of the next day because I did not want to go to school.
Right.
And so that afternoon, I went home and took a baseball bat and tried to break one of my legs so that I would not have to go to school the next
Wow.
day.
Wow.
But I did not have the courage to hit it hard enough. And so I still had to go to school the next day with
So
a
you talking
leg that,
1960s, Morris?
yes, I am.
Okay.
Um, Now, it took me decades to understand that that is why Transine and Paxil helped me. If you today go online, look at what medications are prescribed for complex PTSD, one of the first that you will see is Paxil. That is not a coincidence. So to back up, it was only after I got that complex PD under control that I was able to think clearly enough and have enough self introspection to address my stuttering. Okay, as I said, at this time I was reading very widely And somehow, I do not know how, I came to the conclusion that building self-esteem was the route that I should take. And so I purchased a self-help book on building self-esteem, and it changed my life. But at the time, even I did not know why. Um, Now, there are many reasons that it helped me. Self-esteem certainly had a direct effect on addressing the psychological component of stuttering. It had a huge effect, but the book helped me for another reason that I did not recognize until years afterward. Some of the steps that the book took me to take had the effect of what competent, and I stress the word competent, speech therapists today call desensitization. Um, I purposely stepped out of my comfort zone and and identified situations that were relatively less threatening to me. And in those situations, I chose when to speak. Okay, I stress the word chose. I was putting my situation, no, I was putting myself into a situation. I was not being forced into the situation. I was choosing to put myself into the, the situation, and I was choosing when to speak. And very slowly, and I do mean very slowly, it took years. It was a hard road, but it had the effect of what competent speech therapists today call desensitization. Now, in my words today, I would say that the core of the psychological component of stuttering is the fear of stuttering. That is, you fear how people are going to react, or to put it more precisely, you fear how you are going to feel, and I stress the word feel, when you stutter. And that is an aspect of desensitization. Even a lot of speech therapists today do not understand. but it took me a long time to grasp it. Uh, um, I would stress that every bit of information that ever helped me was one that I searched out and dug up. And I stress the word dug up. It has been a rough road, but I have made an enormous amount of progress, um, especially in my professional life. Um, 2006, I wrote a book in my field that was published by a reputable publishing house. I have worked in a company in Princeton, New Jersey that's thought so highly of me that they sent me to Germany and to Hungary for brief times to train their staff.
Wow. Wow.
Well, now,
Well,
that tells you a whole lot as to how much progress I have made.
just the fact that you agreed to a recorded Zoom interview shows me the progress that you've made, and it really shows the world how confident you are. So, congratulations.
I
Got a
thank
question
you.
for you, Morris. Do you think that there are current SLPs that specialize in stuttering, current ones, um, today in 2026 that do not um, utilize desensitization in their therapy?
Well, I would give you an easy statistic that will answer you. Um, I've forgotten the name of the organization, but it is very prominent. It is the best known professional organization of speech pathologists.
So ASHA,
Okay. Pardon?
so ASHA,
Yes.
okay.
If you contact them and or do your research, you will find, and this is the case last time I checked, less than 20% of the members of that organization have advanced training in stuttering.
So those speech language pathologists that treat stuttering, do you think there are any today that do not um, utilize desensitization in their therapy? Not the overall speech language pathologists, but those who treat people who stutter, kids who stutter.
Yes, now I do not have any direct knowledge, but I have studied the speech no, the stuttering therapy cur- curriculum of 5 universities. And judging by that, I would say that, generally speaking, sizable, probably over 50% um, of the speech therapists who treat stuttering only have a superficial understanding or employment of desensitization. Um,
How would you describe desensitization? So if I wasn't part of the stuttering community, I had no idea of what you're talking about. How would you describe that to a layperson?
I have no professional training in this area, but in my mind, there are two sides of it. One is the cognitive, um, knowing in your head that you are of value, knowing in your head that there is more to you than your stuttering. You are the content of your character and your values and your belief system and so on. Your stuttering is just a small part of your life. Now, that is a general aspect of the cognitive. The other aspect of the cognitive is to know in your head that the last time you stuttered, did anyone shoot you? Did the roof fall on top of you? Oh,
Yeah. What's the worst thing that's going to happen, right, Morris?
okay, now that is the cognitive, but in my opinion, that is an important part, but it is not the main part.
Okay. Okay.
The main part is physical and deep rooted psychological. Um, developmental stuttering by definition occurs during childhood. And during that time, the person acquires a process that, in layman's terms, the flight, fight, or flee process. It is a physical and a deep rooted emotional reaction to how your body and your subconscious respond to threat. And in this case, the threat is how you will feel when you stutter. Okay. But by slowly um, choosing to speak and to stutter while you speak, you very slowly, okay, your fear very slowly reduces in severity. And that is what I mean by desensitization. And I
And
would stress that this is a deep rooted subconscious thing
yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
that is very important to understand.
So desensitization, that's kind of a umbrella term, and that includes things like voluntarily stuttering, open disclosure, identifying yourself as a person who stutters, approaching feared situations, that is avoidance reduction, um, talking about your stutter openly, and mindfulness comes into play also. Staying present while you're blocking, while you're stuttering. So, so you think that 50% of the collegiate curriculums don't include that in their um, stuttering speech pathology classes?
Yes. Um, um, Judging, okay, I studied the cur curriculum of 5 universities, some of which even have PhD programs in speech pathology, and some claim to train people how to treat stuttering. But when I studied the curriculum of those universities, it was obvious that they had a great deal of ignorance as to what a stuttering is.
Now, those
I,
concepts that we just talked about, those are from the Van Riper days. So those are Van Riper, Williams, Sheehan from the 1950s. Those are all timeless concepts. So if 50% of the colleges aren't incorporating those concepts into stuttering therapy. What are they teaching?
It appears to me that you're focusing on the mechanics of speaking, um, relaxation, but they do not have much understanding of that. Also, for years, they did not know it, but they did know what desensitization was, and they do make attempts to address that, but have a very poor understanding of how to do it. Um, um, and there are so many facets stuttering that the programs I examined do not address. Um, um, they do not address the deep rooted fear. I mean, the programs just have no understanding of that.
When you say they focus on the mechanics only, that 50% of the universities focus on mechanics, what do you mean by mechanics? Do you mean counting blocks? Do you mean praising people for not stuttering? What do you specifically mean?
Um, it appears to me that they focus on physical re- relaxation, but only in a superficial way. I'm just astounded by how ignorant they are. Um, I remember a particular period in um, my life about 5 years ago. For some reason, I do not know why, I became curious as to how stuttering was currently being treated by speech therapists. Now, this was about 5 years ago, and I began reading and reading, and the more I read about how stuttering today was being treated, the more shocked I became. I said to myself, how stupid can you be?
Where did you mostly read this information? On the online stuttering support groups like stuttering communities, stuttering arena, and places like that?
Um, um, I, I've, I started out by going onto the internet and by reading a- about how stuttering is treated in speech pathology programs in colleges. Um, and I was stunned.
Because 50% focus on the mechanics. So would um, so you said that they teach relaxation. Would that be slowing down my speech and just trying to entering a totally relaxed state and slowing down my speech? So, would that be what you're talking about, Morris?
Would
Okay.
um um and then I started to go online and to read about the experiences that people had had in speech therapy in recent years, and it just blew me away. I said, how ignorant can you be?
Well, I hate to cut you short once again, Morris, but my team is blowing up my phone. So I've got to kind of wind this down and start my business day. But I just want to tell you from a personal standpoint is I see the tremendous amount of time and effort that you put into the stuttering community. Very, very much appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, you are making a difference out there, Morris. I mean, I see you are devoting so much of your time. Thank you.
I thank you.
Um, we have about uh, 5 or so minutes left. Um, do you have any closing thought? Well, I know that you have closing thoughts.
Um,
You are a wealth of information.
um,
What would you say to the young people starting out in business? You had a long and successful business career. You started out right at the end of the Jimmy Carter days from 1976 to 1980. I think back and our family had a lot of macaroni and cheese dinners and a lot of spaghetti dinners and tuna fish helper dinners. So I remember those days. I can't even imagine starting out then. I started my business career in 1983, so I was a few years behind you. But just coming off of that recession, I can't imagine how difficult that was.
Um, I will start out with what is perhaps the most important, and that is do not social socially isolate yourself.
Excellent.
It will make your stuttering worse. If I know anything, I know that because it sure did me. Um, so to any person who stutters, I would say that they need, as best they can, um, find some sort of stuttering support group. I cannot emphasize that more strongly. That will help you in ways that you yourself will not understand at the time. Okay. Uh, Second thing I would say is that you have two options in front of you, and only two. Statistically, 80% of the children who stutter in early childhood will stop for no reason. 80.
Yep.
20% will not for reasons today that we do not have a good understanding of. Therefore, I would say that if you are 10 years old and still a stutter, you need to seek help. And I will stress this as strongly as I possibly can. The reason is that the longer you endure that suffering, the more emotional damage you will have incurred, and the more damage you will have done to your life, and the more opportunities you will have missed, and much of that cannot be fixed. Now, I speak from very hard experience, very hard. So I would stress person realize that I don't know the age, but certainly I would say by the late teens that if he is still stuttering, and statistically, I would say if he is still stuttering by the age of 12, he has a serious problem and he needs to address it then. And I stress the word then. Um, 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 damage once it has been incurred sometimes can be fixed, sometimes it cannot. And I would also end with this very important truth. There are some opportunities in life that only occur when you are young. There is no power on this planet that can change that fact. Therefore, you need to get a handle on your problem as early in your life as possible. Now, I speak from painful experience.
Right. Just to clarify something, Morris, so I think I heard you say that that if a young person still stutters at 12, that they will stutter for the rest of their life and they need to address it at that time. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So formal therapy should, you think that the formal therapy starts at 12?
the person and how mm, mature he is and the degree to which he believes stuttering is causing him a problem.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
um, but to answer you, given what I know, I would say that if a child is still stuttering by the age of 8, his parents need to take action.
Okay. 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 Morris, I once again apologize, but I have to bring this to an end. So I really don't want to end our conversation. I just want to press pause because we're going to talk again for sure because we've got a lot more ground to cover.
As you may have gathered, I can talk all day and all night.
Well, when it comes to stuttering, I could too. I could talk about it all day long, but unfortunately, that does not keep the lights on. So
No, it doesn't.
I need to start my business day. But what a pleasure talking to you this morning. I look forward to our next conversation, and we're going to schedule that real soon. Okay.
Okay.
So thank you so much. I'll stop the recording, but we can continue talking after the recording, okay? I'm gonna stop
Okay.
now.